Yo, 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 what is up, guys? Welcome to the giveaway. As promised, I got in Alex here. Alex matched my giveaway. I said for every 200 subs, I would give out a spy entry. We hit 800 subs, and Alex said, you know what? I'll match it. So for you mathematicians at home, that means we're going to be drawing 8 names, and Alex and I will be Venmoing you, and you must use that money to enter the spy. Okay, so we appreciate you guys all subscribing to the channel, added a bunch of subs, really appreciate that. And Alex, and of course, sorry, I'm all discombobulated today. After the drawing, we got my guy Sammy Reid down here drinking his cup of joe. We're going to walk through the week 16 slate, but he wanted to come in here and watch us give away these entries. But Alex, my man.
Yeah, I'm not actually giving away anything. Like, you guys are doing so cool, everybody. And I'm like, well, I didn't bring anything for the party.
Sammy, you said you were gonna match it and give out Thunderdome tickets, right? Is that what you said?
That's right. Let's do that on the next stream.
Yeah.
Stream after this. Yeah, private password.
But Alex, so for people who don't know you, this mysterious Santa Claus that came out of the woodwork, tell people what you're up to. You're a Roto Grinders guy as well, and why you decided to get in the matching business here.
I just, I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in good luck. I don't believe in good fortunes. I don't even believe in God. But what I do believe in, I believe that if you have some gratitude, it comes back to you. So I have some gratitude for the great work that you do, Peter. So I figured I'd give it back. And it helps me to be grateful for the things that you have given out to the DFS community. That's it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So I will not string people along. I have my trusty randomizer wheel here. Anyone that followed the instructions, got their entries in by noon on Christmas Eve, they are here. If you didn't see your name in the preview photo, don't freak out. It is literally a preview photo. All the names are here. Shuffling them up right here. You see it. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. There are no dupes. There are only real entrants here. I think we get right to it, guys. We are going to start spinning the wheel. The first entrant in the spy is ZGent 83. ZGent 83. Now, the process for this will be, if you do see your name here and you want to reach out to me, you can. Otherwise, I will be going into the comment section, finding your contact info and getting in touch with you. But congrats to ZGent 83. Are we mandating? Does he need to double stack, or is he allowed to skinny stack with this lineup? Do we have any rules, guys?
If he wins, okay. If he wins with a double stack and a double bring back, I'll give him another 500.
Wow. Now you're really forcing him into new construction. We got another one coming.
If he quadruple stacks and wins, then he gets a Thunderdome.
Wow.
That's a good
one. A lot
one.
of stretch goals here. All right. Who do we got next? We got Crash B87. Crash B87. If you're in the chat and you have won, let us know so we can be happy for you. I don't recognize these usernames yet, but that doesn't mean that they aren't valid individuals in their own rights. Sammy's got the cat out now. We have 2 winners, 6 more to go. We got ZGent 83 and Crash B 87. Let's get a third here. How do I get in on this, buddy? Where have you been? I've been just blowing up Twitter for the past 72 hours.
Internet, bro.
The thing is, he's here. How did you get here and not know that you could get in a giveaway?
Jesse Williams, congrats. You are the 3rd recipient of a spy entry. Luminaries such as myself. Sammy, do you play the spy?
Hell yeah. I play the spy every week. And I'm curious about Jesse, if that's his real name or not, because we have some screen names. I don't know if Jesse's just trying to build the brand. He's just like Davis Maddock. Like, this is me. Come get it.
No, trust me, I will draw another name if I find out that I accidentally, drew Davis Maddock's name. So no friends of me in the spy here. These are just the loyal viewers. I will be checking and making sure you are real humans. And to that point, I will do an alternate or 2 at the end, just in case I can't get in contact with everyone for some reason. All right, we have 3. That means we have 5 more to go. Feel like Price is Right style. Alex, big money, big money, big money. Oh, I recognize this name. Maryi Don Yeezy. I recognize that Twitter handle. Frequent commenter. Congratulations. I believe, Alex, has that been 4 we've done now?
Yes, and 4 left.
4 left. So if it was just me, it'd be done. It would be done. We would have no more spy entries to give away. But because of Santa Alex, we are going to keep going. We got 4 more.
Because I have a healthy disregard for money.
All the great gamblers do, my friend.
Here we go.
Man, imagine the sweat of seeing your name on this list. And you're like, oh, it's right there. It's right there.
Mr. Locke.
Boom.
That better not be Drew Locke. That better not be Drew Locke. Congratulations, Mr. Locke. You have just won the right to compete against me and Alex and Sammy Reid and luminaries like Davis Maddock in the spy on Sunday.
I wonder what defense Mr. Locke is going to play.
Yeah. All right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 more. Here we go, guys. Dun, 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 dun. Who do we got? Who do we got? Bert the Big Hurt. I believe I recognize this username as well. Bert the Big Hurt. Fan? What's that?
Is he a Sox fan?
I don't know. We're gonna have to dig in and get the backstory on all of these people. DraftKings will be doing kind of contest profiles on all the people who won here. They're gonna come to your house like they did Jonathan Bales, an interview about your life story. So it'll be an excellent experience for all of you. All right, 2 more, guys. 2 more. Again, thank you guys so much for participating. Hope one of you guys takes down the spy. Ooh, I think I recognize this name here. Bad Homie. Bad Ami? Bad Home? Do you guys have a ruling on this spelling?
I would say Homme, like Josh Homme, the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
I'm going with Homie. It's just, it's somebody who just like did a typo when he put in his name. He's like, I didn't really think this through. He screwed up, and then he's emailing DraftKings like, dude, I need to change this, and they're like, no, you can't change your name. You're locked in. So that's what I think happened.
All right, guys, there's one more to go. This was a big success, so we'll plan on running it back this year. I won't make Alex be on the hook for another $400 next year, but I will put myself on the hook to do this again next year. Let's do it. The final recipient of a Venmo from me of $100 that you must use in the spy on DraftKings. It is Lee Seltzer.
Ooh,
like the
thirsty
drink. Lee, congratulations. Guys, thank you so much. Obviously there ended up being a little over 600 people in here. So if you didn't win, I'm sorry. That's how it goes. But an 8 in 600 chance at $100. Not too bad. Alex, any final words here for our recipients?
Congratulations to everyone, and do your best with it. And whatever you do with it, be smart with it. That's
awesome. So we are going to do a quick scene change here and get ready for our Week 16 preview. But I wanted Alex to hop on and do this right after the jump. We are going to break down the Week 16 slate with my guy, Sammy Reid. It's been way too long. So again, thank you guys all for participating. Thank you to Alex for matching. And shout out to me for getting back to my roots as the deposit king here. As I said, $400 to all you guys. So quick scene change. We'll see you guys in 1 or 2 seconds here. I need to get my my producer hat on. I am struggling. I'm in the wrong theme in StreamYard. We are now heading over to the Bankroll Challenge. All We're back now. We're back in the Roto Grinder streets. Alex, are you gonna chill for a little bit, or are you heading out?
I'm game.
Yeah,
dude.
dude.
It's my wife. She's watching the kids.
Okay.
Show off some of that sharpness, Alex.
Whatever you need to drop off, you're fine. But yeah, let's get right into it. The people in the chat did remind me I meant to do some alternates. I will do a couple alternates at the end of the show. I should have done that. I will do that. I have the list up. We'll do that at the end. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show here. I got Sammy Reid. Now, Sammy, I think of you these days more as a cash game player, mostly from your appearances on the Gilcast, where you guys pretty much exclusively talk about cash games. But where would you say, are you about even cash and GPPs, or are you skewing more towards cash?
No, I definitely skew more towards cash. And I think it's because I don't think I'm a good GPP player. Like, I really have tried to work on my game a lot this year. But at the end of the day, I think you really need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And you need to be honest with yourself. And I have no problem saying I don't think I'm that strong of a GPP player. And I've been doing a lot of stuff this year, man. Like just trying to, listen to guys like Blender and Pete Overzet, who's now a real thought leader when it comes to GPPs, but really work on my game and try to get better at them. Because, when you're not smashing them, you got to be like, okay, what am I doing wrong?
And Sammy, I know I hear you guys talk about your cash game lineups and that you'll have your kind of shell throughout the week and you're tweaking it. At what point in the week are you starting to create your GPP lineups?
Usually GPP. So I like to get cash down first because I feel like cash is cash, you want to have value, right? To me, cash is all about value, and GPP lineups are kind of all about making a lineup that makes sense. Right. So those are two really different things. And having cash really kind of lets you be sensitive to who people are playing, which is obviously a really important thing in GPP. So I really like to get that part down first. I tend to not make my GPP lineups until like the night before, like Saturday night. And then cash, like, dude, I build it on like Thursday and then I'm tweaking it throughout all the way till Sunday.
Yeah. So then what happens and I can't even remember now from the Gilcast, but when we get a late piece of breaking news like Tony Pollard last week, are you tearing down your lineup and starting from scratch there, or are you making a swap off of your shell?
Yeah, so you should really know, Levitan talked about like his want plays and his like must plays. And I do think that's a really good way to think of things. So you have, generally a couple guys in your cash lineup who you are just playing. And it's just happening. So you need to work around those guys. But generally, I will like click out of every other player and start anew from that sense. So I'll start with like 4 guys who are like locks and go from there. And like just talking about the Pollard news, Pollard was a guy who, we talked about it on the Gilcast. We believed in him so much. Like when he got into the starting lineup, he was like a must play. And then we realized that in GPPs, he wasn't like that owned. You know what I mean? Because people are slow to react to late breaking news. And that's a big lesson that I learned, man. It's like when you get that late breaking news, you can actually over leverage it, because the field isn't reacting as strongly to it. And I didn't last week. Like I didn't swap to 100% Pollard in all my GPP lineups. That was a mistake, right? So lesson learned.
Yeah, Alex, I don't know. How did you process the Pollard news? Because everyone went through these levels, right? Where it's like, obviously he's a jam. But then there's people, I was listening to Eric Beimfor on the Theory of DFS podcast with Blender. And he was saying, he's playing in the super small field, higher stakes buy-ins. And he was worried that he was going to be mega owned. And so then he didn't want to get there. That ended up not happening. What kind of thought process do you go through for tournaments with late breaking news like that? And then trying to anticipate what the field's going to do without established ownership projections?
Well, first, living the dad life, I got to catch the news. That's the first step. The first step is being there to catch the news. I missed the Ronald Jones news 2 weeks ago because I think it was in the last 15 minutes, and getting a Christmas tree, and it was just like it was a Christmas tree and getting coats on the kids. Like real people go through this stuff all the time. I mean, I take this very seriously. It's my primary income, and I missed some news on it. I can't imagine how many people are missing news that's 90 minutes beforehand. So what makes sense on value on a Thursday is different than what makes sense in value on a Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I respect Eric a lot. I think Eric's one of the sharpest dudes in the business. I play the same tournaments as him. And I've faded, like it was the Mike Davis Duke Johnson week at the same week when they're both 4K. And I didn't really fade them, but I only played one at a time instead of jamming both in. And Eric was saying that morning, fade them both. It was a really sharp call. But I think with Tony Pollard news, that was so close. And the price was just good enough to suppress ownership. Like, it wasn't going to be 65%. I thought, like, if this comes out to 30% and I jam in 100%, I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, the Ronald Jones one was actually one of my bigger mistakes I've made in the past few weeks, because I had him in my lineup before that news. I thought he was a really good tournament play. He's going to come in at 5%.
Yeah, 5.
And then Fournette scratches, and I don't even think his role changes at all, and the ownership jumps 25%, but I was already anchored to that play that I just couldn't bring myself to pull it out. And I was so mad at myself because I love Ronald Jones at 5% there, hate him at 30% in that spot. So I need to get better at reacting to that stuff as well. Sammy, do you find yourself hedging your cash game lineups with your GPPs? Do you find yourself using a core from your cash and then spinning off? How does that cash GPP interplay work for you?
Yeah, so sometimes in the single entries, I will build that single entry off of a cash lineup, right? Because single entries, like, you generally don't need to get super wacky, but at the same time, like, you do not want your cash lineups in there. So I think sometimes you kind of want to, like, I'll take my cash lineup, and then sometimes I'll change 75% of it. Like, it really depends. But, you want to start getting some correlations in there. You just don't want to, like, throw in something that you're trying to win the Millionaire Maker with, because you don't have to outlast like hundreds of thousands of people, but you really want to understand those leverage points, right? Like, this week, if David Montgomery's in your cash lineup, I might throw my cash lineup out there and take Montgomery out and build like a Trubisky stack instead, something like that, but really understand the different points that you want to get to leverage wise.
Yeah. Yeah, Alex, is that similar for you? How do you spin off your cash game lineup into GPP lineups?
That's what I did when I was a 100-man player. I started playing tournaments, playing 100-mans, and once I got into the single entry and 3-max mode, I started kind of treating it like baseball. So something clicked in my head with Korean baseball. I was playing baseball cash games as I was analyzing baseball as baseball. And with Korean baseball, I didn't understand these guys. I didn't know them. I had access to like 20% of the information that I normally do. I had to actually play DFS. And I had to employ that DFS game theory toward something I didn't really understand. And when I did that, and I was stacking in ways that didn't, quote, make sense, as Sammy would put it, I started winning because I was making correlations that made sense. And so I do that with my single entry and 3-max lineups. I try to take 2 or 3 games that make sense, and I stack the living shit out of them. It might be a 3-1, it might be a 3-2, it might be 2-2 in a secondary stack that's 2-2. But I try to find games that make sense, and I kind of build them like a baseball GPP lineup.
It's funny.
I really like this point because, you remember a couple of years ago, a lot of people were surprised when some of the big name pros were saying, hey, like, I don't really watch the games. I don't even know that much about this sport, and yet I crush it, right? Do you think having that detachment from it kind of helped you out and gain some like forest for the trees perspective on it?
Probably. In terms of Korean baseball, you're asking? Yeah, because I had no biases toward, a certain guy making too much contact or not enough contact, or, I didn't think about those things. I just looked at the numbers and I had some really raw fucking numbers to look at, I didn't have any StatCast numbers. I didn't have WOBA. I just had to go.
No WOBA, man. You were really out there. You were flying blind.
It's funny that exact dynamic you described was the light switch moment for me. The turning the corner was playing all of these sports throughout quarantine, League of Legends, MMA, PGA, sports I had never played where I have no biases. I know nothing, but I learned how to play the games of DFS, all those things. And whereas last year, because all season long in the dynasty, I have all these biases about guys, and the analogy I always use off the plastic bag blowing. I had to fade because I didn't like their color prospect go out, all the dumb stuff that I do. And that experience of playing those other games really set me here to that approach DFS.
Is your audio up, Peter?
What's up? Can you hear me, Sammy?
Pete. Thank God. I thought my plebe internet kicked in again. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna kill AT&T. Like, I hate these guys, but good. That's great.
No, you're kind of getting a little C3PO there.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Voice, yeah.
All right. Am I better? Am I better now?
Much better.
You're a little pixelated, but you're coming back, I think.
I'm pixelated. Goodness, I get this HD mic. What is this even all for?
Pixelation got me through puberty, so
yeah. I mean, just call kitchen, man. Like, have them figure out your technical difficulties.
That's what's so tilting is if I'm going to be able to roast Kitchen about his internet quality, like I need to have mine top notch. So yes, I'm mega tilting right now. So what I was trying to say was just learning how to play DFS versus knowing the NFL inside out. That was a game changing moment for me, and I now I can't go back. I feel like I've done my red pill, blue pill. Sammy, your eyes lit up when Alex started talking about baseball. Yeah. Have you been able to apply anything from baseball DFS to NFL? Has that helped you at all?
Yes and no. I think for the same reasons that Alex is saying, and I think we're all big fans of Blender, and we've all kind of like tuned in and started listening to his stuff. And he has the big saying, just play whoever you want, just make lineups that make sense. And making lineups that make sense specifically in GPPs like really trumps, like when we all start the games, right? Like I started playing baseball DFS because I played fantasy baseball like seasonal, right? And so I'm like, oh, I know these guys better than other people. Like I study these guys like in and out, through and through. I know the game. I know the players. And it's really like less about knowing the players and more about knowing the game, if that makes sense. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but like having that kind of detachment and really looking at it through a game theory lens rather than I know this sport so well. And in football, it's the most prevalent, right? Because everybody thinks they're like a fantasy football god. They got their home league trophy on their shelf. They're like, yeah, I know fantasy football, bro. Alvin Kamara, bro. And it's like, that doesn't help you that much when it comes to DFS. Really like understanding correlations and putting together like lineups holistically and concentrating on that big picture stuff is way more important than like knowing players, honestly.
Yeah. And the way I've been thinking about it too is I do think now, I could come in an hour before lock without having looked at anything on the slate. Projections are updated and build a pretty good lineup. Just a pretty good lineup without much context at all, other than the two sets of projection numbers. I do still think there's obviously an advantage to understanding some of the nuance, what player their ceilings are relative to their athletic profile, where usage is trending. But that said, it feels like an 80-20 thing, right? Where you're getting 80% of the benefits from like 20% of the work, where it's like, if you just have those numbers and you understand the correlation, you're going to get 80% of it. And then we're all, killing ourselves deep in the weeds to get that extra 10, 15, 20% edge. But I do think the majority of that edge just comes in understanding how to play the game and the correlations.
Yeah, big time. And, we talked about cash versus GPP. Like I've always been a bigger cash player, right? Because that's what made sense to me. And like letting go of the value and letting go of the good plays is a tough thing to do in your mind, right? It really is. But that's what it takes to really be a good GPP player. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I'm trying to like branch out into, because I really do think cash games, they just get harder and harder. And eventually, you can like make some profit every year, but are you like going to just have a complete smash and get rich? Nah, you're going to do that through tournaments. So that's I think that's going to be a big focus, not just for me, but for a lot of people moving forward.
Yeah, and I do agree with this about Pollard being an example of a guy that a lot of people who are in the weeds with prospect profiles are very excited about what Tony Pollard could do as a pass catcher versus, say, when Leonard Fournette opens up and you are just clutching your rosary beads and hoping he falls in the red zone twice because he's not breaking off 85-yard runs in the passing game. So I'm not discounting that. I do think there is some value there. I just don't think it is even close to more than half or even 80% of where you get the most value. My bad.
Yeah, hey, it's more important to know that Zeke is bad than it was to know that Pollard is good.
Very true.
Well,
very true.
It's also important to know that Mike McCarthy has a very long history of trying to establish the run at bad times to establish the run.
Yeah.
So he had a long history of trying to make the Ahmad Green thing work. He tried to make the Eddie Lacy thing work.
Touchdowns 1 year, bro. 20 touchdowns.
He did. And then after that, he had like an 850-yard season doing dust.
Correct. I had him on a keeper league. I remember this fondly.
For those of you who are just trickling in, we've been bouncing all over the place, but I'm here with Sammy Reid. You guys know Sammy from the Guildcast, Roto Grinders. I miss him writing the Reid option this year on Roto Grinders, so hopefully we'll get him back doing that. We're talking.
I had a kid, man. I had a kid, and I just had to. Alex, you feel this, man? I just tried to try to. Yeah, you got 3. I don't. You're an absolute insane person, bro. I just, I was like, dude, it takes me so long to write this damn article, and my wife's gonna just kill me. And you got the kid around. I'm like, dude, I got to shut it down this year. I don't think I can deal with it. So that was. I hope I'll be back, but the wife's already clamoring for a second, so maybe it's dust.
And let me introduce again Alex here for people who are coming in late. Alex was the Santa behind the match here for the giveaway, but also does MLB, NFL content for Roto Grinders, plays in all of the games across those sports. And so he's sticking around with us, and we're going to talk through this slate a little bit here too. I don't want to speak for you guys. I'm flying a little blind. We had the holidays, then we're trying to build some lineups for the 3-gamer. So my thought is we can kind of walk through this slate. Maybe from the top here, we can pull up some projections, some lineup HQ, maybe run some optimals and see what we're liking here early, if that sounds good to you guys.
That sounds good. Can we get a shout out for the people in here to follow Alex on Twitter?
Yeah, seriously.
Alex is so sharp, and not many people know it as they should. So you guys should do that.
I am dropping a link to both Alex and Sammy's Twitter here in the chat. You guys need to follow these guys right now, and then we will be able to continue. I mean, Sammy Reid still has a man's coin as his Twitter profile.
Bro. Do you remember when I went on the Stones live stream with Mike Postle, and I'm using the man's coin as my as my card protector, and the announcers are literally talking about it. They're like, what is that? That's a really cool card protector. And Yancey Eaton is in the stream chat, and he's like, man's coin, it's lit. And they're like, man's coin? It's lit? What? I mean, it's the best. I'm going to retweet this when we get off this stream. It's the best thing that's ever happened.
I appreciate in all the shots, you use that as your de facto card protector, right?
Oh, 100%. And not just on live streams. Every time I play. And then people will talk about it. These random people at the casino, this old Asian lady picked it up, and I'm starting to take pictures of it. She's like, what is this? I'm like, oh, it's physical cryptocurrency, just straight deadpan.
There you go.
Physical crypto.
Oh yeah, Alex. I'll get you a man's coin. So where do you guys? Because so for me, you're kind of doing content throughout the week. So I got my spreadsheet going. I'm liking to update things because I need stuff to talk about on shows. If I didn't do content, I'm checking in Saturday night to start with my stuff. So where are you guys, first of all, with this slate, and what is the first thing you guys do when you start to dig in to build your lineups?
So cash lineup or GPP lineups?
Let's say GPP.
So Alex will probably have a better answer for this, but I like to really go to ownership. I like to understand where the ownership's going to lie before I start deciding where I'm going to lie with my ownership.
Yes. The first thing I do is I look at the over-unders, because I'm writing content early like you. If it wasn't for writing content, I probably wouldn't look at anything until Friday or Saturday morning. But since I'm looking at it early before projected ownership even comes out, I'm looking at the over-unders, I'm looking at the pricing and the value. I can pretty much figure out where ownership is going to consolidate on teams. Because remember, I'm looking to play teams. I'm looking to correlate teams and games instead of individual plays. So that's the first thing I go to.
One question on that note that I'd be curious your thoughts, because like one thing that I've done a lot this year that I think has been helpful, but isn't necessarily the full puzzle, is just a simple thing. I like looking at ceiling projections relative to ownership projection, and just a quick way to kind of identify who are these players with a big ceiling that aren't going to be owned. Like that makes sense. Now, the thing that starts to get tricky, right, is who are the values that are such good values or so mispriced that the ownership doesn't matter as much, and that those guys come into the consideration. Because a lot of times now I find myself swinging so far in the other direction where I'm getting so contrarian, where I'm looking at all the best leverage plays. And so how do you guys start to juggle that and pull yourself back in of being like, you know what, I am going to play Tony Pollard. He's going to be 40% chalk, but I don't care. I'm curious how you guys balance that kind of contrarian mindset with finding good chalk.
Not the science part.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it, Sammy.
I was just going to say, like, one thing we talk about a lot on the Gilcast is like, oh, like if I wouldn't play this guy in a GPP lineup, like, should I be playing him in cash? And a big part of, and then we do, and we're idiots, right? But then, so much of NFL DFS is every week there's like a handful of injuries, and then there's low price guys to fill in there, right? And so one of the biggest parts is, do I play this guy or don't I play this guy, right? Is this good chalk or bad chalk? Like this week, I think Darrell Henderson is going to be a big pivot point, right? And so if you think that the odds that person won't pan out are like larger than the percentage of ownership, and that's something you need to decide for yourself, like that's a guy you should fade in tournaments. Like, if you basically you thought Tony Pollard was going to smash, at 40%, and he has like a 80% chance of smashing, you should be playing him anyways. But if you think Darrell Henderson, say, has like a 50% chance of busting, but he's going to be like, close to that own, maybe that's a fade for you. I think that's kind of the calculation you try to go through.
Is it similar for you?
We're talking about for starters. For starters, start making lists. I think making lists is really important. Putting value, chalk, overpriced, underpriced, whatever works, whatever you need to stick in your head over the next, 3 or 4 days, if you're going to look that far in advance, so you can cross-reference back and forth. Because once value comes out Friday night, right, that a guy who was limited in practice all week and played a full game on Sunday all of a sudden isn't going to play, that name is going to be in the front of your head. That's just how our brains work. We're biased people. We have a negative bias too. That's just kind of natural. It's like a self-preservation thing. So if a value play sticks in our head, a good play sticks in our head for a long time, that gives us 48 hours to tell us why we shouldn't do it. So once we get an alternate, once we get a pivot, then that negative bias can just kick in and take over what should have been a good play, the same play it was 3 or 4 days ago. It becomes a bad play.
Yeah. No, that's true. And where does projections, not ownership, but just fantasy point projections factor into your GPP play? I know we've joked around a lot on here about being a hand builder or an opto bro. I hand build my main slate lineups, but I like to look at the optimals, see some plays that I might be missing that are showing up in a lot of places. Sammy, do you use kind of the optimizer projections to point you in the raw direction, or is it way more of an art than a science?
It's way more of an art, bro. You just got to understand it's an art. I mean, really, I am a hand builder, bro. And I found that I had more success. Some people are really good at like setting their percentages and spitting out 150 lineups and max entering. And where I started getting better at GPPs, like I used to just like burn money, like trying to like throw in a bunch of stuff into the Millie Makers and, these smaller tournaments with all these people. And it's like, look, that's you're playing lotteries, in my opinion. Like if you really want to be, play GPPs, dude, start playing the high dollar single entry, like 3 max, the $150 power sweep. That's a 3 max, the spy, the double spy, and really concentrate on a couple of lineups. That's what I've kind of found. So in that sense, to me, it is more of an art because you are hand building and you're trying to make lineups that make sense. If I was doing 150 lineups, like, yeah, you'd be in there tinkering with your percentages and, all this stuff. I ain't got time for that.
Alex, because I think maybe the risk of if you aren't ever really looking at projections or some optimals is that you might end up sacrificing too many projected points in your lineup. Is that a concern for you if you're hand building? Because obviously we know, maybe we'll sacrifice 2 projected points because the owner. Oh, sorry, Alex, it's getting a little loud.
This is Alex's life, man. This is what happens when you have 3 kids. I was trying
to push through, and then I was like, I can't even think of what I'm trying to say right now.
Alex was trying to push through too. He's like, man, bastard kids again. I mean, I will kind of answer that.
Yeah, let a fight break out.
Alex is back. Okay.
No. So what I was trying to say is, how do you lean into it being an art in building it, but all of a sudden, you don't want to put in your projected points and see that your lineup is like 40 projected points underneath an optimal, probably is what I'm trying to say.
I actually never add up the projected points of a lineup. I do try to look at how the floors and the ceilings relate with one another, and I try to make correlations with the games. Yeah. But I try not to do that because I'm only making 1 to 3 lineups. So again, like baseball, you can't do that in baseball. You can never add up the projected points. It's never going to work. Yeah. You have to look at, I'll look at the projections and I let them guide me in terms of like tiebreakers, maybe in terms of who's my core versus, one guy versus this guy, especially in cash. But in GPPs, I'll have a core of, maybe 1 or 2 games and 1 or 2 guys from each of those games. And then from there, I want to see for this guy to hit that ceiling, what needs to happen. I want to tell myself a story. And the projections aren't always going to tell me that story. What the projections tell me, they tell me all the things I can't compute in my head.
Yeah.
So that's why I use them in the first place, because they can do all the work for me that literally the brain is a terrible computer. It just can't go through all the work.
And that's another good point, Sammy, because I think one thing that people end up doing is if they are looking at projections, they end up double counting if they're hand building, because you're like, well, I like this guy. I think he's going to get more targets this week, or this is a shootout game that's high pace. It's like, well, good projections already bake that in to those projections. So where are you at in using projections to inform your hand builds?
Yeah, for cash, I think they're essential because you really are going for like a higher floor. But for GPPs, I really do think you're trying to outdo the projections, right? You're really trying to like find outlier things. And like Alex said, you tell yourself a story, what needs to happen for this to occur? We see it all the time with people winning these big tournaments. You're like, man, how did he get there? Like, I never thought this would happen. That's the whole thing. I mean, Bales was writing about this 5 years ago, right? Anti-fragility, taking advantage of when things go wonky. Every week in the NFL, we're like, man, this is so crazy. Like, we never would have thought this would happen. You need to take advantage of that, not be the sucker sitting there like, man, this is so unlucky. Like, I didn't think this would happen. Like, take advantage of it. So I think that's the whole part of like, projections. Like, nobody's top projected lineup is taking down GPPs. It just doesn't happen.
No.
We have so much incomplete information in NFL. We don't have 162 game samples. We don't have, 600 opportunity samples like we do in baseball for, a single season. And we say in baseball, as baseball bros, that one season is never enough. 600 plate appearances, that's not enough. 1,000 plate appearances isn't enough. But here we're making huge decisions in football for tens of thousands of dollars on the last 25 targets that happened, like, you gotta shift a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, man. Like understanding what you don't know. I mean, it's such a powerful thing in like so many areas of life. But talking about NFL specifically, it's okay to say I don't know better, right? It really is. That's like step one to like really understanding things.
So I figured a way to kind of just jump us into talking about this slate. I am running just a couple optimals, although I put a little bit of correlation in here. So I did a quarterback to at least 1 pass catcher and then 1 bring back. And then I did another secondary correlation just to try to get us more in the ballpark of what maybe optimal GPP lineups would look like. So I figure we can just talk through some of the stuff we're seeing. Like I said, I haven't been as in the weeds on the salary, the matchups, all that stuff here. Obviously, I have some new value opening up. Let's see here what we're getting at quarterback. We're getting Jalen Hurts in an overwhelming amount of lineups, and then Drew Lock. Looks like maybe a Derek Carty special down here in the cheap range.
I blame Carty for that 100%.
Yeah. Anytime you don't like the optimals, you can just blame Carty and be like, oh, he's wrong on this one.
Yeah. Is Drew Lock in a dome or what's going on?
Yeah, Drew Lock is they're on the road at LA. So the thing going for Drew Lock is these Broncos pass catchers are so cheap. they're dirt cheap here, and I'm guessing they're popping. Yeah, you got Patrick here showing up, Jerry Jeudy showing up, and even Hamler down here. So if you want the blender vomit stack, Drew Lock might be your guy this week. But let's start with quarterback here and seeing Jalen Hurts. Where are you guys at on him? It looks like he is going to be popular. He's shown a pretty high ceiling and floor. Is that some chalk you guys would be willing to eat or getting off of it at that ownership?
In tournaments, I'm getting on it a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to play him in one. I mean, I'm playing single entry and 3 max, so I'm not sure if I want to play him in one lineup or 2 lineups. Of course, there's an opportunity cost, and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, I think, are in awesome spots. And I have to consider that an opportunity cost. I can't just be like, all right, Jalen Hurts, awesome, jam it in, let's roll. What do I want to do, versus those other plays? And so that's where I'm not sure, but it's a good place for us to start because I think Jalen Hurts dictates a lot of the lineup because of his salary.
Yeah, and I wonder, Sammy, the interesting thing about Hurts is he's going to be, looks like the second most popular quarterback play here, but no one has anyone they really want to stack him with. So is maybe the way of getting unique with Hurts actually stacking him with a pass catcher?
Yeah, I mean, the way to do it is to stack him with 2 pass catchers. I heard Deshaun Jackson. Let's go.
Oh, no.
Yes.
It never actually happens, though. This is the thing with Deshaun Jackson. It hasn't happened since Michael Vick.
Well,
yeah, I mean, he had that one highlight that one time. I mean, yeah, I will say, and maybe this is just gal brain, but I think Hurts is kind of the favorite to be my cash game quarterback, right? Just because he's shown this like immense floor. But let's not act like he doesn't have paths to failure. You know what I mean? Like even last week, I mean, they turned the ball over multiple times. He got sacked 6 times. He's never been regarded as a great thrower, although he looked really good last week. I think one of my GPP strategies this week will be to kind of leverage off of Hurts and get some Miles Sanders in my life, honestly. Like that's going to be a big point for me, I think.
Yeah, Miles Sanders.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Alex.
The Cowboys have been they've been kind of a sieve when it comes to the run. I don't really get into the hand in the dirt defense takes, but
Leighton Vander Esch hasn't been the same since he came out from the elbow injury.
I mean, everything is just giant holes in that Dallas defense. But I think if I was going to leverage, I'd probably, if I'm not playing Hurts, I'm probably playing the Cowboys DST and stacking it with whomever starts being in the backfield for Dallas.
I mean, the sharp thing to do is the Jameis Winston, where you play the quarterback and the opposing defense. Like last week, it would have been great. You had Hurts and the Arizona defense. They put up like 18 points. It was amazing. I miss Jameis Winston, you guys.
I think that's a great point that Alex is talking about, and it was actually one of the things that I clipped that Bales had for identifying sneaky defensive plays, which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen that video, I put a compilation video out of the top tips from my guests this year. Lots of good single entry 3 max GPP strategy stuff, but Bales.
There's going to be 0 coming from this show, by the way.
No. We are going to do an addendum. It's going to be Sammy Reid and Alex talking about Korean baseball, and we will add it in. But what he was saying was that same thing of like, and I think that's a really good way of thinking about how to handle chalk. Is okay, if we're not, say, super confident in Jalen Hurts at chalk, how can we leverage that with the Cowboys D, with maybe using Miles Sanders instead, where everyone assumes, okay, the Eagles are going to score points. It's going to be all through Jalen Hurts. And it's like, well, what if they don't score points? Or what if they do score points and it's not through Hurts? And so I like that line of thinking how can we actually leverage that specific chalky play?
Well, also, what if Hurts only scores 16 to 20? Like, maybe he doesn't have to be awful, but for him to he's such a volatile talent that for him to only score 16 to 20, some bad shit's going to happen, right? Like, there's going to be a fumble. There's going to be some sacks. There's going to be, some scrambles that instead of becoming an 8-yard run is a 4-yard loss.
Yeah.
Those things are going to happen.
Yep. Let's jump over here. Obviously I set a rule on this to stack with one pass catcher. It is interesting. Goddard here. I think he has a fairly decent projection here at 10.54 tight end, pretty gross. I mean, one thing to note is I believe Goddard had 8 targets last week and Ertz had 7 targets. So Ertz down there, I believe, is 3,100 at tight end. If Goddard is the kind of chalky way to stack Hurts this week, I think you could definitely make a case for Ertz, even though, Sammy, it pains me to tout an old like Zach Ertz.
I mean, there's going to be some olds in my lineup this week, man. I don't like it, but do you guys follow that Twitter account? Did Zach Ertz break a tackle?
Oh,
and it just tweets out no every Sunday.
When was the last time that happened? Probably been a while.
That's I told you guys I'm going to make a burner account called "Did Nate Noling Take an L?" and I'm just going to tweet no every Sunday.
That would be a really good one. So that I think that's an interesting dynamic there. It does look like RG has him right now at 15%, which is a pretty high mark. So maybe we are getting off of this Jalen Hurts stuff at this ownership just because it's hard to stack him. I like the defensive call. I like the Miles Sanders call. Let's go look at some of these other lineups for ideas. Maybe we'll head over here to running back, see who we're getting. David Montgomery, who liked the price of Bitcoin, just continues to go up and up and up. And it does not look like the ownership is ticking down with the price hike. JD McKissick, who is a glorified wide receiver here with, I guess we're going to have to keep tabs on the Antonio Gibson news. It sounds like he might play. Eckler, Melvin Gordon without Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson without Duke Johnson, and then James Robinson's questionable here. You guys have any snap takes on some of the optimal running backs right now?
Snap take is Trubisky stacks, baby.
To leverage the Montgomery ownership?
Yeah, and it's tough because there's not that much about Montgomery that screams you should be fading him. I mean, really what we're looking for is like teams that are committed to using their running back and he doesn't share a lot of work. Montgomery actually checks those boxes. But at the end of the day, at some point, the guy just gets so expensive and people continue to like him more and more. It's like, dude, let's get some Trubisky and Cole Kmet going, baby. Let's do it.
And that we had talked about that on the Swolecast earlier this week because I was like, I love that with Montgomery as chalk. But then I'm looking over here and it seems like people are on it. 12% ownership for Trubisky. I like Mitch Trubisky when he's 5%. I don't know if I love him as much when he's 12%.
This is terrible. All right, scratch it all. Make it Allen Robinson. Let's go.
The problem is Jacksonville's kind of just for years now. It's just this evergreen matchup for people to play against. So it could be, it could be Patrick Mahomes, it could be Mitchell Trubisky, it could be Josh Rosen, and people are going to play against Jacksonville.
Well, I hate to go back to this, but what we might want the Trubisky leverage to be on David Montgomery is what the Drew Lock to pass catcher leverage might be on Melvin Gordon. Because if Melvin Gordon's going to be super popular here, Lock, that might be the way to go to leverage.
I mean, let me just tell you as a general rule, and this will hold, this is evergreen content. If Melvin Gordon is chalk, do not play him. Also, the other side of the flow chart, if Melvin Gordon is not chalk, still don't play him.
Yeah. Melvin Gordon here. You got that written down? Yeah, I'm with Sammy. I'm pretty scared of Melvin Gordon chalk. I'm not. The one other interesting thing is Royce Freeman is questionable too. I mean, I guess if he has that entire backfield to himself, the pass to failure start getting less and less. But I'm with you. I think I'm more interested in those pass catchers there. What about Austin Eckler? Because he's still catching a lot of passes, but he's now losing this goal line work to Kalen Ballage. Are we worried about a chalky Austin Eckler here?
Yes. Yes, in tournaments, I am. And I love playing Eckler in cash because he's got such a high floor with the receptions. But the reality is, if you're trying to bank a tournament, you need guys who have paths to multiple touchdowns. And the fact that Eckler doesn't get work from the 1 yard line really limits his ceiling ability. As somebody who owns him in a lot of seasonal leagues, it's very tilting to see, old ass Kalen Ballage come in, you're just like, come on, bro. Like Eckler's built like Maurice Jones-Drew. Like this guy can chunk fools at the goal line. What are you doing? Have you seen the guy's abs? It's out of control. And they take him out for Kalen Ballage. So for me, that's kind of in tournaments that makes me pretty weary because his top end just doesn't seem to be as high as it should be.
Yeah. And if we do my quick hack here to identify some tournament plays here, I'm sorting by ceiling, tabbing through at some ownership here. McKissick, that's obviously going to be dependent on if Antonio Gibson plays, I believe.
So let's talk about Gibson for a minute.
Yeah.
Because there is honestly, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of value in Gibson in tournaments because people are always so hesitant to play guys their first game off of injury, right? But we've seen it several times this year. Guys came back from injury and smashed in their first game, right? We saw it with Austin Eckler. Nobody wanted to play Eckler at 6.1K because it was his first game. They weren't sure how he was going to be used, right? Who else did we see it with? We saw it with
we've seen it with a lot of COVID guys coming back too.
Yeah, God, I'm blanking here on a couple of the guys that came back, but they like smacked. Christian McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
Remember the game CMC came back and he dropped like 37 and then dipped out again? But people are really hesitant to play these guys because it's like, I'm going to kind of wait and see. In tournaments, not waiting and seeing can really help out, I think.
Yeah. I was just pulling up some of the stuff here. My buddy Edwin, he thinks Gibson's on the right side here of being active just by getting in all of these limited participations this week. So I think that's a really good call there. James Robinson, another guy with a Q tag that isn't going to be too popular. Same with Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, no one played Elliott on Q tag coming off of a late track. Unless you
Robot Pete.
Is he pixelating again?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Call Kitchen, baby. David Kitchen, get him on the line. Hit up the DMs.
I am tilting. Anyways, looking at another guy I'd be interested in who's rolling right now.
We're not getting you, buddy.
You guys aren't big? Yeah.
I'm Robot Pete. Nobody can hear me. I'm frozen on the screen. He sorts himself out. What's your opinion on leveraging like guys that are coming just off of injury? Do you think there's overall like enough upside in that, or do you think like it's just not safe enough? And I know it's case by case, but like, is that something you try to go out of your way to do?
It's it's dependent on the injury for me. I don't really listen to the ESPN podcast very much, like the Fantasy Focus, whatever it's called. But the Friday shows, I listened to the Friday shows back in the day, and I learned a lot from that lady, Savanya Bell, who's the doctor.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about what different injuries do and how long they linger. So if a guy has a high ankle sprain and he's out 4 to 6 weeks, he's probably fine if they're playing him. If the guy has a low ankle sprain and he's playing the next week, then maybe I get a little cautious, because those tend to linger. If a guy's got a concussion and then he plays the very next week, I'm like, I'm not too sure. But if a guy's been out 2 or 3 weeks with a concussion, like, let's roll. Like, let's go. He's got to be good by now.
The brain swelling has got to have gone down by now.
If it's enough to catch a ball, that's all I give a shit about.
Am I back? Am I not pixelated anymore?
The Deposit King is back, baby.
Gee, that's the thing, guys. Everyone who I said I was sending $100 to, that's no longer happening. I am spending that all on Ethernet cables. No, I don't know what the deal is here. I probably just needed to restart my computer. I have, Excel files with Google comments a mile long. So
too many tabs. It's all right, man.
Too many tabs. Yeah. All right, let's tab over to wide receiver here. Let's see if I can get the screen share back in a second. I mean, the two premium wide receivers this week are going to be Calvin Ridley and Tyreek Hill. We haven't talked about that game much. I mean, it's super expensive to stack that. Like, you, in a perfect world, you just do Mahomes, Kelsey Hill, and you bring it back with Ridley. Easy game. But then I think you have like $3,200 left per player. So what are your guys' thoughts on this Chiefs-Atlanta game? Because the Chiefs are really kind of the only premium top-end team on the slate this week.
Well, you asked what I thought, how I approach projections and whatnot. When I see a guy projected like Calvin Ridley is over Tyreek Hill, it makes my eyes pop out in terms of performance and ownership and then like oh shit, what if I leave this guy out? Like, because the gap between them is like, it's almost a full point, isn't it? It's like 1.5 points.
Yeah, I'm looking here. It looks like Cardi has him 20.56. Yeah, Tyreek Hill 19.21.
That's pretty huge. So it's hard to leave out Ridley. Ridley gets into that really good chalk level, and he's not very cheap.
Sammy, what is your thought on, part of, I understand that Ridley is projecting well. This is my hand in the dirt take. This feels like a bad spot for the Falcons on the road.
Well, I mean, they're not in a dome. So obviously you got to chop their projections in half. I mean, look, so I agree. Like, Ridley is definitely good chalk, and Ridley is going to be in my cash game lineup almost 100% likely because he projects out so well, and we've really seen just him smash all sorts of volume with Julio Jones out. And Julio's out again this week. However, there are, in tournaments, you have to understand there are still paths to failure, right? Who knows if the Chiefs just start like rolling coverage over, or doubling him, or he has a bad game, etc. And you can really leverage off of him, right? Look at Russell Gage. Russell Gage has been doing great. And really, I think narrowly missed a really big game last week. And he still did really well. So I think in tournaments, whenever you have a game that's going to be like really smashy and really chalky, I think one of the best things to do is approach that game is look at the secondary options. So you still get exposure to that game without paying the price or the ownership tax. So for me, Russell Gage is one of those guys that I think I'll be looking at a lot in tournaments.
Yeah. And I feel like, Alex, that's always the question too for either the super popular games or the super chalky games is, are you just going to exit out and not touch it? Or are you going to try to get cute in there? Your Mecole Hardmans, your Russell Gages, your Hayden Hurst. What is your reaction for this game?
Well, one is, you just onslaught it, 3-2 stack. Sack 3 on your KC side, 2 on the Falcon side. That's a way to be contrarian. Another is to exit out, as you just noted. Another is to go with these like really small, go with, say, like Mahomes, Bell, Hardman, right? You can do something like that and get really ugly and go with Gage, and then your secondary stack is something that costs a lot more. Another story you can tell yourself is that the Chiefs win 45-6. And you just go 3-0 because that's a realistic scenario here.
Yeah.
That that Atlanta gets 2 field goals and that's about it.
I mean, Matt Ryan has never let us down, so I don't see that being not Matt Ryan's house.
Especially not on the road.
Hey, Chiefs DST. Like, what's up?
Yeah. Bell Chiefs DST and just say what if 80% of the points go through those two?
Right.
Real quick, circling back on that, I'm curious both of your guys' thoughts. Alex, you mentioned the kind of onslaught, a 3-2. What is your cutoff for contest size of pulling that off? I mean, it's obviously very unlikely that a 3-2 is going to take down the Millie Maker, but it's incredibly viable in a 200-person field. To what size would you push a game onslaught until it doesn't become viable?
Maybe 1,000, only because 1,000 gets a lot of dead money in there. I mean, optimally, I'm probably thinking more like 600. But once a contest is like $500 and there are 1,000 entrants in there, there's like 300, 400 people who have no business being in that contest. So I almost throw it out of my brain. They're paying the rake. So it depends on the buy-in and the size. It depends on the buy-in, I would say.
Yeah.
To get the size.
Well, Pete, and I'm sure you've probably talked about this before, but I think it's a really good point because I think, when you're talking about you can't like do these like crazy stacks in like the Millie Maker and the reasons why not, because I think when a lot of people are first starting out, they're like, wow, I need to like do this crazy onslaught to like take down a giant tournament.
Yeah.
And it turns out not to be the case. Can you kind of go into that a little more for the people?
Yeah, well, no, it's a little hard right now because we've seen these past Millie Maker lineups that do these super weird where it has Allen Robinson and David Montgomery and like Corey Davis and I don't know, was it Derrick Henry?
Yeah.
Where it's like with no bring back, and so the correlation's all thrown out. But the thought behind that, right, is just the amount of things you have to get right in that super large field, and that's part of the thing Stuart was talking about in the video as well, just correlation in general. You're hitting a 9-leg parlay to win $1 million in the 600-person field that Alex is talking about. If you are the only one that onslaughts that game that heavy, and that's the one game that goes off, all you had to do was get one thing right, and you're probably at least top 10 in the contest, depending on what your other stuff does. So I think it's a good point, and I think it's something to take in consideration too, of just knowing like, hey, I do want to stack this game or onslaught it. Well, make sure you're going in and selecting a contest that will reward that strategy. Because if you're tossing that into the $3 play action with 200,000 people, I will bet against you winning a tournament with 5 or 6 guys from that game that are expensive. So I think that's the other point to it too, is the price. You know, the higher the price and the cost of that onslaught, the less likely it is going to be that you can take that down. Now, if you want to do your Drew Lock double and you want to bring it back with Eckler and Keenan, because those prices are so cheap, you might be able to get the ceiling elsewhere at other places in your lineup. Does that stuff check out for you, Alex?
It does. And something I've been wondering lately, I mean, obviously like running quarterbacks make good naked options as, make good naked options to kind of start our lineups, like a guy like Jalen Hurts. But I've been wondering sometimes, and this could be a galaxy brain thought, but a chalky guy like Calvin Ridley or Tyreek Hill, playing just one of them with no bring back, sure, that's going to be very common amongst bad lineups that are going to be dead anyway. But sharp players who are really putting forth great lineups, they're not going to do that. And is there an edge so is there then a one edge, kind of a galaxy brain edge in just one-offing a Calvin Ridley or a Tyreek Hill or a Travis Kelce? I'm not sure. It's a thought that's been in my head over the last week or two.
Yeah, and is that the later slot, or is that a 1 p.m. game this week? Because that's
a good question if you're an East Coaster.
Yeah.
It's an early game.
It's an early game. Because that's another thing I've talked about and has been a big part of my strategy this year too, is like when you have these chalky, expensive options, it's so much easier when they're the late game. Because you can put Tyreek Hill or Kelce in your flex, and if you're crushing, you let it ride. And if you're buried, then you can get more creative. So it's a little harder to attack those kind of games at the 1 p.m. slot. Sammy, I had a question here for you, and then we'll wrap up by building a lineup. Does Sammy ever consider using running backs from both sides of one game in GPPs, or a strict no?
I think the answer is yes. And I think the initial part of it is opposing running backs are negatively correlated. So you're like, oh yeah, I can't do that. But stylistically, if those running backs specifically are like good pass catching options, Austin Eckler would be a great example of this. There are running backs that benefit from negative game scripts because they're used so much in the passing game. So I think the answer is yes, but it depends on the running backs. You don't want, two down plotters because, you don't want Derrick Henry and, I don't know, some other guy that doesn't catch passes together. You want Austin Eckler. You want guys like that. So I think that's the answer.
For sure. Yeah. I definitely think there's situations where it's viable. Let's build a lineup here, guys. You must do that on a DFS show. You must build a lineup. I will say here, I have the main slate league up. Looks like we got 8 spots left. I posted it in the Discord. I will post it right now as well if you guys want to join and fill this. We got 8 spots left. All right, let's do this. Let's pull it all together now. All of our beautiful GPP brain thoughts. Let's start with Sammy, and then we'll go Alex, and then I'll pick. So, Sammy, do you have a stack, a player, anything you'd like to start us off with here?
Oh man, this is really just such a tough scene for me. I want to go Herbert and Keenan Allen.
Ooh, I love it. So the thing obviously with Keenan, right, is he's been questionable this week with the hamstring. Sounds like he's gonna go. I think we'll have to check out the pregame reports. I still feel so burned when he screamed in the camera and told me not to sit him, Sammy. But we're GPP bros. We don't get, bogged down by recency bias.
We're GPP bros. Austin Eckler, big chalk. Nobody likes Keenan Allen right now. Like everybody was playing Keenan Allen in week 4, and everybody hates him because he straight just burned everybody the last time we saw him. I'm back in. Let's go. Let's GPP Galbrain it.
All right, Alex, do you want to continue down this stack, double stack, bring back, or you want to go off the board and then we'll circle back to it?
I'm going to bring it back with Jerry Jeudy because in a big total where Denver's involved, like Drew Lock, his intended air yards per pass attempt goes up to like 12, 13 yards. It's insane the deep throws that he gets. And Jerry Jeudy gets up like a third of those air yards. So if we're going to get some of those prayer yards that are going to connect, Jerry Jeudy is the best bet. If you just look at the targets, you're going to see that the targets look pretty even between him, Patrick, and Font, and even Hamler. But if you look at the air yards, who has the biggest chance to hit their ceiling, it's probably Jeudy.
This is how you know we're making a good GPP lineup, guys. We just got hit with the vomit emojis. That's how we know we're on the right track.
Yes,
hey,
yes.
You got to tell yourself a story. Sammy started the story with Once Upon a Time. You got to go on with it.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Yeah, this is my fault.
Yeah, I don't want to. I want to make sure we don't have any plays over 10% projected ownership. I mean, that's the mark of a bad GPP lineup. I will do the guy we were talking about earlier, Miles Sanders. If we do think Hurts is going to be super popular and we think those points could come elsewhere against a bad Dallas defense, let's say Miles Sanders has a massive day here at sub 10% ownership.
Love it. All right, so we need to save a little salary. So we're getting in Parham at tight end, and we're gonna keep this. We're gonna make the stack massive.
All right, Parham, baby. So we have no Hunter Henry. We have XFL star Donald Parham Jr. of the Dallas Renegades fame balling out here. 2,500 Stone Min. I think it definitely makes sense to correlate the tight end here at a rock bottom price. Alex, are you going to give us one of your onslaught specials here for a small field, or are we going to go with something else?
From here, I think I want to open up some more. I mean, we have so much ownership to work with right now that it kind of doesn't matter. Can we fit in? Let me see here. Can we just jam in Ridley here?
I bet we can. Let's do it.
Because when I build my lineup and I see those ownership numbers, I see those orange numbers so low, I'm like, fuck, I can do whatever I want right now.
Yeah. So Eric mentions this thing here. And again, I do have this in this 200-man lineup just right now. But let's think of this lineup as like a sub 1,000 person field, what we're kind of building for here. And then the one thing I'll say, Eric, and we've talked about it on the tilt space and stuff too with Leone, is one of the benefits of getting, even somewhat aggressively contrarian in a 200-person field is you're getting on a different build than everyone else. Everyone else is putting in similar to a chalk lineup with a few pivots generally in those type of fields. So just going with a game stack, just going contrarian off some of those chalk pieces is going to give you a better chance of lapping a lot of similarly tight built lineups. So I don't think it's bad to be really contrarian even in small fields, as long as you're not making just dumb plays. Let's get in another Chief then, right? Like if we have Ridley crushing here, do we want to play Lev Bell? Where it's like,
that's where we're going.
I think we're doing it.
Path to destruction.
I feel gross. I don't think we could afford Kelsey or Tyreek in this lineup, but maybe we can pull off Bell. I feel
so. So are we definitely playing the Chiefs DST also?
Well, if we have Ridley, I don't know if we want to do that.
I honestly think that's okay because you're telling the story that the Chiefs go up big, and then Atlanta's just like throwing all over the place. Like both the DST and Ridley benefit from a lot of pass attempts. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
All right.
How gross is the Jets DST this week? I think it's 3,000. It's 3,000 or 2,000?
Yeah.
2,000? Is that possible?
It can be done. I mean,
it can be done.
The only problem for the Jets is they're not playing Sean McVay this week. So, they don't have a fake sharp to tee off on.
Yeah, that's very tough. That's very tough. But they are on a winning streak. So maybe ride that momentum.
Yeah. Okay. If we do go Chiefs D here, it's either Alex or Sammy who's rounding us out with a $4,200 flex.
Give it to Alex. I threw out the Chiefs DST.
I am low on value. Just looking at some So the projections start looking at guys like AJ Green. I'm not fucking touching AJ Green. Darius Slayton in a really low.
Oh, you're a coward.
Touching it.
We could.
But a guy who I really like, I wrote him up in my usage column the last couple of weeks, Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
Can we fit Michael Gallup in there?
We can. And he correlates there with Miles Sanders.
Oh, this is great. This is a winner. This is if any of you guys who won the spy contest use this, I think we should get half the money or something. Is that something we can do?
That's the thing. You actually then have to give us all the money back. It's a short-term microfinance loan that we're doing, right, Alex?
That's right. This lineup is amazing. This is going to win.
2.4%.
And yeah, another thing you could do, I think this lineup for 1,000-person field makes a ton of sense. Say you were in a 200-person field. I did see Tim Patrick, who was popping in optimals there. If you were in a super small field and you just wanted to onslaught that game with 2 Denver receivers, three Chargers, I think that would be viable as well. But I think in the context of this lineup and 1,000 field size, Michael Gallup there looks pretty nice. So we did it, guys. We just built a winner. We built a winner.
Well, I'm screenshotting this and I'm entering it into all the high dollars.
Please
that lineup will not be duped.
Don't dupe me, Sam.
Don't dupe him, bro.
All right, this is what we're gonna do. I'm going to wrap this up, give these guys their proper goodbyes. I'm gonna roll the Roto Grinders in scene, and then I will do a couple alternates drawings. You guys don't have to stick around for this if you don't want, but I do want to make sure I get a couple alternates on the record in case I can't get a hold of everyone. So, Sammy Reid, thank you so much for joining today. I believe I'm hopping on the Gilcast next Sunday because this coming week, I am becoming a cash game player for week 17. I'm turning in my GPP Bro card and I'm becoming a cash game guy. So I will see you, Sammy, in a week.
Week 17 is so wild. It's kind of like GPP and cash. It's really like this whole Dow brain. Like that's why we got to have you.
Oh, yeah. But don't worry, dude. I'm going to have my want plays, my wish plays. It's going to be an epic cash game week for me. So, yes, Sammy, where can we find you? I plugged your Twitter earlier. You're on the Gilcast, and we need to twist your arm back into writing a column again. Yeah,
I mean, that's really it, man. Like, it's all gone downhill since I had a kid. The content creation, all that stuff. It's just like, I don't know how you do it, Alex, man. You're freaking amazing. But at Sammy Reid FI, and listen to the Gilcast. You can hear all the terrible decisions we made throughout the week and roast each other for it. It's really cathartic when we get it out.
I'm sure people, I would assume 90% of people, 95% watching this are familiar with the Gilcast. But if you're not listening to that, I don't care if you don't play cash. It is the most entertaining listen each week. Incredible rapport between Sammy, Nate, and Davis. So please check that out if you're not. And then Alex, my guy over here, Santa Claus coming in, giving out multiple spy entries with me. Thank you so much for that super kind gesture. And it was great that you stuck around and gave us some your GPP knowledge as well, man.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, this was a fun day.
Awesome. Well, like I said, if you guys want to stick around and see some alternates, I'll do that in a second. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Even when I'm not bribing you with spy entries, your likes and subs are still appreciated. Good luck today, guys. Enjoy the 3-game slate. Enjoy the full main slate tomorrow, our last really good one of the year for main slates. And then I'll be back on Monday with my lineup review. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you after the jump. All right. All right. You guys you're off the hook unless you want to just continue hanging out with me as I do some alternates here.
I gotta go hang out with the kid. I know Alex has three.
Just close out the window or what?
Yeah, you could just close out the window. All right.
Yeah, see, this was fun, you guys. Alex, good to meet you on the internet. Pete, this was great. We'll do it on the Gilcast next week.
We'll see you soon.
All
Bye,
right.
guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good luck, guys.
All right. Now it's just you and me. 118 people sticking around for a couple alternates here. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't do this at the beginning. I got distracted. Let me remove here. All right. So I will draw three alternates here. And then after the show, I will reach out to the winners. I will get you the money. I believe there's still plenty of spots left in the spy. Johnny Compton, alternate number 1. alternate number 1, I will get 3 alternates here in the event that I don't connect with the initial winners. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Asif, you are alternate number 2. You are alternate number 2. And one more alternate just in case. I'm gonna post the list. I'll post the list after. I have all the screenshots of who won on my computer. I'm gonna go through that right now after I finish. Mongo DFS. I believe Mongo is Deposit Kingdom Discord guy. I believe I recognize that. You are the 3rd alternate. So there it is, guys. We have 8 SPY winners, 3 alternates. Again, sorry, Paul. I'm sorry. You know what? Everyone had about an 8 in 600 chance, I believe is what it came down to for eligible entries. So pretty good shot. I understand some people are going to be disappointed. It doesn't happen for everyone. But again, I truly appreciate you guys helping the channel get some more subs and in being a part of whatever it is we are doing here, trying to win tournaments. So thanks again to Sammy. Thanks again to Alex. And I will see you guys on Monday for the Bankroll Challenge lineup review. And congrats to all the winners. I'll be in touch.